ride down. Hopefully the bicyclists aren't going this way. It is a bit early, so I think I may be going over to the co-work space for a while because I'd rather be over there than sitting up in my car. So I used permanent marker on a whiteboard. Yes, I did. So if that ever happens to you, you can get a dry erase marker and write over whatever you wrote, and it'll come right off. All right, so the other thing that has happened is I've made the decision that I'm going to work at the hospital job until the end of the year. That's pretty much what decision. So I already notified, I notified my supervisor and also the person that does the scheduling. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to come to this decision so soon. With that said, they sent out the schedule for 2027, January through April. And to me, it wasn't right to go ahead and say that I was going to work some assignments when I knew that I wasn't going to be there. Hi, I'm on my way to teach a CPR class at the hospital. Kind of stayed in the bed a little bit today. I was going through the library ebooks and some of their offerings. I saw one and I checked it out, but then I turned it back in. I'm like, When I was listening to it, the recording of the voice, it kind of put me off a little bit. It's a topic about black women, and then the voice, I'm just like, okay. I said, okay, let me just get past the voice and listen to the information. So I think it's on my list of checkouts, so maybe I'll go back and check it out again. We'll see. No workout today. Making a list of some things, some paper products. Also, I need to get some batteries for the training equipment I have. So, AED, automatic external defibrillator trainers. So they take a D battery. Okay, got that on the list. Just getting the things that I use for business and use my business account to purchase it. Yep. So yeah, that right there. Ooh, it's a sunny day today. I had wore this out before for 1 hour. Went out and ran one errand and came right back in. It was right after I took a shower. I said, you know what, I'm going to hang that thing back up and let it just, some air hit it and wear it today to work today. And then it'll go through the washer. It's like, oh. Rainy yesterday, so I think something that's very interesting. I said I'm going to work this job to the end of the year, and I still have this urge to look for jobs, and I was like, why is this happening? I said, okay, let me get on the chat GPT. Why do I continue to want to look for work? And it all gets down to that. The programming, the years of being a nurse, what a job, the title, the value attached to working a job, all of that, identity. So I'm like, okay. But also it said sometimes looking at the job, to look at the qualifications, to realize that I have the skills that could qualify for a job. Oh, this is a little family. They got an itty bitty baby. Oh, okay. So maybe it's a little bit of that. And I'm like, okay. So I'm going to pull over right now, and I think I'm going to check out that book and just listen to it on the way to the job because I want to save my voice. For just a second. So that there. With the finances, I'm working on a 1-year payback plan. I could tell I did a little bit more spending on credit cards because I had some repairs. So then your usage rate goes up, and then you begin to get these things like, you made a purchase to drop your score. Oh, would you like to transfer stuff over? And no, I would not, because I copy and pasted into Chat GPT and I said, what's the gotcha in this? And I'm like, no. I just pay it back over 9 months to a year and feel the pain. I would rather do that, okay? And yes, the last day of the job is still on that day. And like, oh, well, why would you do that if you have some debt? I'm doing more than the minimum credit card payment, okay? I can well afford that, so. And my overall usage rate is low. Some are like at 0, so. But anyway, that is going on. So I bring that up because people go, oh, well, how are you managing? Yeah, I mean, I had some big repairs and I put it on a credit card. I still have some different slush funds, but I haven't really touched those. I really keep that in place, as a just in case, and pay over 9 months to a year. I was looking at how much interest it is, but because the rates I have are, the usage is low, and even though there's some interest, I look at that and I factor that all in there. So clearly I'm a critical thinking kind of analytical person, because I sat out and calculated everything with the 403B I had with, the 401k or 403B? 403B I had with K through 12. So yeah, I definitely calculate things. So yeah, there we go. I had to put my ID badge on. I said I didn't wait until it was too long. Today I'm going to be teaching in the hospital part, not the community CPR classes. This is actually in the hospital in the special care nursery area. I think the good thing about this job is I'm leaving on good terms, and I'm still having my evaluation, so of course I'm gonna bring it up. I just want eligible for rehire, okay? So that's what we're doing. Leave with plenty of notice, eligible for rehire, do an excellent job through the period, what do you call it, transition period. So they have more than enough notice, 5 months notice, to post a job opening. But the boss says she's just gonna leave it like that until my last day. I think she's giving me an option in case I change my mind and go, you know what, I'd like for you to pull that back and I'll stay. So I think that's what part of it is like. Let me just leave this like this until the last day in case, because you never know, because that's what bosses think. She might change your mind. I appreciate that, having that wiggle room, but I think probably the thing is having to schedule, and I've said this before, having to schedule way out until April. Before that didn't seem like a big deal, but it's like, there's things that I want to do. I want to go maybe go back and take some classes. I'd like to go take some classes like yoga, take some swim classes, maybe take some dancing classes. We'll see. So, yeah. When I worked K through 12, there was this teacher and this para that got in a fight, okay? And the children taped it and everything. It ended up on World Star, WSB. I said World Star first. Yes, World Star, WSB, and a lot of other places, unfortunately. And I went to my mom and I said, did you see that? And I don't know if I did it in exactly that order. And I just remember her saying something like, yeah, they said it was a love triangle. And my mom is kind of like, that was the first thing I thought. It was a love triangle. And it was. And you know what happened to that man that they were fighting over? Nothing. He worked in the school system too. When you look at the video, it looks like it's the teacher and the parent going through back and forth. It was the last week of school. It's like, oh my goodness. And one of them pushed the table at another. And that's when it kicked off. All right. Allegedly, okay? My recollection is the pair pushed the table at the teacher. I mean, it could have been the other way, but that's my recollection. And then the teacher reacted. And then the next thing you know, they're fighting and swinging. There's a student that's on where the whiteboard is. And they start going at it each other and going the direction of the student. The student's trying to get out of the way. And the other kids are screaming like, no, not as low as I'm going. And then finally, some other staff came in and separated them the best they could. You know what happened to that man? Probably nothing. The man is probably teaching over there right now. So what did we learn, people? Don't fight over a man. So when I go to work, it's not a dread or anything. It's clarity. It's like, okay, I did this. I worked through the process of not feeling like I have to stay here for 5 or 10 years to say that I contributed enough. 2 years here, I contributed. Of course, being attached to the brand and the name of the hospital and saying, hey, I work at that hospital is kind of some status to work as a nurse at this particular hospital. It's one of the more elite hospitals, and it's like losing some of that status. I'm like, okay, let's be humble and let's not be prideful and in our head, okay? But it's considered one of the bougie hospitals. I was reading and I saw this case in California, and it was school health related, and it was this case. This child had asthma, and to cut to the end of the story, it looks like the 2 nurses involved, or their license are going to be revoked, and they're saying that they didn't follow the duty of care and call 911. Rest in peace to that child, by the way. And I'll just say allegedly, okay? All right. There was a nurse. I won't say whether she was regular or contract, okay? We have both. And she was at this non-traditional place, and kind of given away. And the child started, having some mild allergic symptoms, and she was monitoring it. The child turned. Anyway, what I'll say is, based on her assessment skills, 911 needed to be called. So they have procedures at school where a lot of times the nurse isn't allowed to use their phone. Now, some of the nurses, when it gets down to my license, I don't really care. I'll use my phone and call because I could always get another job. So that nurse probably was, I think some of that came into play right there. There were some other things that seemed nefarious by one of the higher ranking nurses. But believe me, they're not doing that alone. Guess what? The nurses are the ones that have something to lose. Let that be a lesson to any registered nurses, licensed vocational nurse, licensed practical nurse, whatever you want to call it. Okay? So anyway, getting back to this one case, she told them, the secretary, and so what does this principal do? Allegedly. Did they call 911? No. Allegedly, they're calling the assistant superintendent in the area to get clearance. Now, keep in mind, this child is still having this reaction. So she's yelling, asking, has it been called? And so finally, allegedly, she brings a child up in a wheelchair, allegedly, and says in a very loud voice, call 911, or do I need to do it myself? And then the principal allegedly said, he's not there anymore, says, calm down. I mean, they made this nurse look like she was a horrible person. She was so frustrated, and I said to the nurse, look it, all we have is nurses, and that's when I was a nurse consultant. I said, all we have as nurses is our license and a good pair of shoes. So I said, you definitely did the right thing. And if you would have made a decision to use your own phone, to protect your license, because there's been teachers that have done that from the playground too. That could be something else right there. But I said, shoot. She did a wonderful job at this school, and then the principal decided that they didn't want the nurse to come back. And then they turn around, when are we going to have a nurse? Like, they had a perfectly wonderful contract nurse. I'm like, can you believe? Yes, I can believe. So I'm wondering if that nurse felt under pressure and folded and forgot about that license, how hard that license is to get, okay? Okay, so I'm going to talk about another alleged situation, kind of story time that relates to nurses, okay? So the principals some of them are like, they give the nurse full reign. Look, you call 911, whatever you call 911 on the landline. Normally the secretary or whoever, they have a procedure. She's like, I don't care if you call on the phone. Call on the phone if they need to be called. There's principals like that totally say the nurse has full reign. And then there's some that are the opposite, like, oh, what if, we might have to pay the ambulance bill. Oh, we're on a side of town. Matter of fact, some of this, near this area where I'm working at, some sides of town on the north end, these parents, they don't want you to call. They're 5 minutes away. They'll just pick them up and take them to urgent care. No. So anyway, there's times and places for that, but not when it's severe. Okay. Anywho, getting back to that case with the child with asthma, the child had the inhaler numerous times. They're more than justified to call 911, and so that was really an unfortunate case. And my understanding is allegedly, there was some with that case with the asthma. This is the one that was on the news in California. Something happened with the documentation. So anyway, getting back, I'm done talking about that one at that school with the severe allergic reaction. So if a nurse sees something and it's urgent, they're probably going to be yelling and saying some things that might not be family friendly. So yeah. So anyway, let me get to this other story. It was at this school. It was in the north end of the county I used to work with, in the surrounding metro area. And this principal was a piece of work. Now there again, I'm just saying this principal was a piece of work. Not all of them, okay? This principal was a piece of work. And so what happens? The playground, the monkey bars, the playground equipment, child's on a swing, child's on whatever climbing, they fall the arm. Bloop. Okay. So the teacher says OMG and calls 911, and then gets on the walkie and tells the nurse to get out here ASAP. And so the teacher's already on the phone with 911, and they're being dispatched to come. Allegedly. So the teacher gives the nurse a phone. She's doing the assessment. Is her assessment that is justified. The call is justified. The principal allegedly verbally tells the nurse to the sirens and everything. we're at the hospital. The principal allegedly tells the nurse to cancel the call. And so this is recorded, okay, and everything. This is recorded because 911 calls are recorded. And allegedly, she tells the dispatcher, now this is in her ear, she tells them to cancel the call because she was told to cancel. Okay, all right. So you all know the principal's going to deny that the principal denied it because, and there's no proof. Okay. The parents were upset. They were asking, why did you tell 911 not to show up? And who got blamed? The nurse. So when I did interview questions, I did that scenario in front of some principals one time, and it was a nurse. I said, this is probably going to be one of the most important questions I ask you. I'm going to ask it in front of these principals too. What will you do if such and such and such? The nurse immediately got nervous. I said, what would you do if a principal told you to cancel the 911 call and you know that everything is completely justified? And she looked at the principals. I said, don't look at those principals. Act like they're not even there. What would you do? She's like, I'd tell them to cancel the call. I said, good call. I said, and you remember that forever. you remember that forever. I said, because trust and believe, some of these principals deny that they said that. I said, and I'm not saying that one of them here. So anyway, she got hired. She worked for a while. Nice lady. Anyway, I think she's done some contracts. Anyway, but yeah, that principal denied it. She denied that she told that nurse to cancel the call. And I said, nurse, oh, my friend. And guess what? Alleged. Do you think our department backed that nurse up? No. After that all happened, that nurse had a target on her back. She ended up leaving, and several nurses worked at that school, and eventually they got one that's like at the nurse practitioner level. She was a certain demographic, and she's a sweetheart. She's advanced practice. And I said, you don't need to say anything, my friend. I said, all I said to her is, I said, look, stay here as long as you want, and I will be glad to give you a recommendation to go work in special education. I said, the last one that worked here is already working in special education. I said, if you want to be next, I said, because by that time I already had a target on my back. So I said, I said, y'all want some help? You ask for it. Said, you want to go to school? You want a mentor? Ask for it while I'm still here. So anyway, that's what happened to that one nurse. They just... And like I said, do you think that the head of our nurses supported that person? Allegedly. Let me say allegedly. Yeah. So like I said, do you think that they supported that nurse?
One thing a black woman know how to do. Let's make it.
I'll tell you what freedom is to me. No fear.
Already know where I'm supposed to be in life, which is me being a rich, wealthy woman. I know this about myself. My family knows this about me. It's just a matter of how I'm supposed to get there.